Welcome to the Charles and Ellen YouTube channel. I'm Elin, and together with my husband Charles, we've taught thousands of students all over the world how to do modern hand embroidery through our online courses and patterns. And today I'm going to help you with a easy and super efficient actually exercise on how to master the French knot. So without further ado, let's dive into it. Before we start knotting, we just have to go through the golden three. These 3 rules will make you master the French knot much easier. So the first one, be sure to not use a too long thread, because if you do that, you can easily make the thread all knotty on the back side and the front, and it will just be difficult to keep nice knots. Number 2, keep the thread tight or tightened all the time. If you want to make a design where it's the knot that is the essential marker for the design, essentially, you want to control your knots and have them neat, then you need to be sure to keep it tight. If you want to do it loose, it will be more like a wild flowers or something like that. But I'll show you how to keep the thread tight. And the last one, don't go back into the same hole. Because what happens if you go back into the same hole? Well, you will undo your knot. So these are the golden 3 to keep in mind, and it will immediately make it much easier to successfully make beautiful embroidered knots. Okay, so how to do it? First, I've got some floss right here. It's a DMC thread. And as I mentioned, rule number 1, don't take a too long thread. Now, it's difficult in this close-up view to see, but I'm taking roughly the length of my underarm, all right? I have my thread. But what is the exercise that we're actually gonna make? So we are going to make a knot in a little grid here. So I'll just show you that quickly before I actually start knotting. So here you can see in the bottom, the number of turns. That means the number of turns around the needle. Here, the number of strands. And we're looking at this before we're completing the thread because I'm going to show you how you can efficiently separate the strands. So first in the bottom, we're then going to use 1 strand and do 1 turn. 1 strand, 2 turns, 1 strand, 3 turns. And the same goes, it's just logical. 2 strands, 1 turn, 2 strands, 2 turns, 2 strands, 3 turns, and so on. The benefit of doing this exercise, of doing these turns or this grid, it allows you to get a very clear overview of how the different sizes, the different number of turns, the different number of strands will affect how your knot looks like. Depending on the kind of design you want to create when you are maybe creating your own design, this is really going to be helpful to have on the side because you never really know until you actually do it. Okay, so the first one in the bottom was 1 strand. So we're going to start by embroidering with 1 single strand. And in the DMC thread, you can split it in 6, pull 1 and keep the rest still. This will allow you to avoid them tangling all up together. I'm threading my needle. And I'm using here a 1-5 needle. You might think that it looks very big for a single strand and a single knot, but I chose a needle that works great for all of the sizes that we're going to do today. So 1, 2, and 3 strands. And honestly, this works perfectly if you're having a thicker canvas fabric where the threads are very tightly sewn. It works perfectly fine to have this size, even for the smaller ones. When it's 1 single strand, you want to be sure to make 2 knots at the other ends to avoid the thread to go through the hole. All right, we're starting in the bottom. Pull just until you feel a slightly resistance. You take, now I'm showing as if you are also right-handed. If you're left-handed, imagine just the complete mirror. I'm taking my thread in the left hand and I have my needle in the right and I'm placing it on top, making 1 turn. Keeping the thread tightened, which was rule number 2, place it just next to the hole where I came up from, not the same hole, rule number 3. and I push through. Now keep it tightened all the way, and voila. One strand, one turn. We're going over to the next one. I'm still keeping my one strand. So the same process, put it on top, but this time 2 strands. Still not going into the same hole. And keep it tightened. Can immediately see a slight difference, right? And number 3. So 1, 2, 3. Of course, depending on the size, you can even experiment to do more than 3 turns. But we've found that if you start doing more than 3 turns, then the knot tends to get a bit loose. So if you're looking for the loose feeling, go up more. Otherwise, between 1 and 3 turns is a little bit sort of the golden range. All right, now it's time for 2 strands. When you want to use 2 strands, be sure to still separate the strands one by one. Otherwise, they will get all tangled up together. I did only 1 knot at the other end this time because when it's 2 strands and up, it's enough to just make 1 knot. I'm going 1 step up, starting over with the 1 turn. On top, 1. Two, 2. And the last one. You can slowly start to see now how this grid is turning out and how the knots look different in size and impression. And 3. Time for the last one. We now got 3 strands. All right, the 3 strands is also 1 knot at the other end. And we repeat the process. The secret of successfully mastering actually any technique is repetition. The more you repeat and practice it, and especially practice it with different thickness of thread, the better you're going to be at it. 1, 2. And the last one. 3 strands, 3 turns. 1, 2, 3. Voila! Now you can see perfectly the range from 1, 1 to 3, 3. And in case you still were wondering why we were trying all the different thickness, it's really to also push you to actually try and reduce the number of strands. Many of our students, they are a bit scared of doing the 1 strand because it looks scary. But when you put them all together like this and you actually try it, you will see that it's exactly the same process. You made it till the end. Fantastic. Don't forget to put any comments on what you got out of this video. If you have any questions or anything, we always make sure to look through them and answer your questions and comments. We love to have feedback on these videos. And if you find it useful, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the bell button so that you get notified whenever we post a new valuable video. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time.